talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. One, two, three, four. They call me Mr. Gulley. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. Here we go now. I'm talking about Mr. Gulley, and you don't know where he's been. Oh no, he's been right in your alley. Well, I'm Mr. Gulley, yes I am. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about pervitin', and we're talking about Bigfoot. I'm here to tell you where he's been. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way. They call me Mr. Gulley. I'm here to save the day. They call me Mr. Gulley, and I'm gonna lead the way.
Hey everybody, what's going on? What's hot? What's hip? What's happening to my hair? Hope you're having a good day. Tonight, let me tell you about the top 10 moments of David Letterman. Now, these aren't necessarily the top 10 moments as voted by the public or anything. These are mine. And I am the first recipient of the David Letterman Scholarship, so my vote counts more than your vote. Yeah. So please like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell, all those free things you can do to help support the show. They're free. Please, please. And then also, if we get the begging bar out here, let's get the begging bar out, shall we? You can super chat. There are memberships. You can go to our merchandise store. You can pay me right directly on PayPal. You give the most, I get the most. And that's about it. And we got to go fast tonight because one of our friends has a show at the top of the next hour and everyone will leave. And by top of the next hour, I mean 20 minutes late. So, but we're going to go fast anyway. I know I promised you the top 10 moments, but I actually picked 15 because 10 is too difficult to do 10. I'd like to thank Doopadoopadoo who requested this particular topic. Also, a couple of things real quickly. You can see everything on video that I'm talking about tonight at YouTube/@Letterman. It's an amazing YouTube channel. You can go back and see anything you want. But I'd also like to give a tip of the cap to a gentleman by the name of Don Giller. And before that Letterman channel appeared, Don Giller for ages had the Letterman compendium page. And let me tell you about this guy real quickly. He went and taped shows himself. He got tapes from other people, and he compiled every Letterman clip on usually VHS tape. He had this huge library, and because Mr. Letterman did not have his own YouTube channel at the time, he's the guy that documented everything. He would compile all the appearances from guests. He'd do all sorts of stuff. And when the Letterman channel began, I believe they got Don Giller at the Dons with a Z5 on Twitter. And his YouTube page still is up, to my knowledge. They got him to be the advisor that could tell them where everything was at. So that shows you how cool Letterman is. Another person I'd like to throw some love towards is Barbara Gaines, who was the executive producer and producer of his show, who's always been really nice to me on Twitter. And I should probably also thank Lori Diamond, who was nice to me when I was at Letterman and was his assistant for some years. So there you go. Now, real quickly, and I'm going to get through this fast because we got a lot to go through. I cannot tell you how much being associated in this vestigial, benign, ancillary way with David Letterman is to me. If you grew up in Indianapolis, you saw him doing the weather, you saw him hosting a movie show, and then you saw him become famous. And David Letterman was my hero long before I won the scholarship. Long before I won the scholarship. So he can do no wrong in my eyes, ever. If somebody says they don't like David Letterman or they prefer Jay Leno, don't do that around me. That's not going to go well at all. And so compiling this list was a lot of fun. I reached out to the people at the Letterman YouTube channel and asked them for permission to show a lot of these clips. And they said, "Who's Tom Gulley?" And then we just kind of agreed to agree that I'm unknown and a nobody. So let's get to a few of your comments and then we'll get into this. Jared's here. Happy to be here. So am I. And Sky is here. He's a guy that knows everything about computers. Upfingus, yeah, like, share, subscribe, retweet, notification bell. He is on fire. Stribs is here. Wanda's wondering if we'll talk about spiders this episode. That's very doubtful. However, Christian Slater is here and wants more about spiders. Doopadoopadoo, again, thank you for suggesting the topic. This is a hard list to make. So many good ones. Yes. Doopa says, hello, Pod Awful Gang. Letterman channel is so good. And then he also does brand new shows with Barbara Gaines and pretends it's her show. And they have other guests on and stuff. It's really good. So he's still doing a little bit. Love seeing him talk about it and talking about old times. The chef is in the house. It's always good to have the chef here. He's a real chef, you know. CIA says, I'm more a Don Lemon guy. Well, to each his own. I thought it was pronounced Leatherman. No, that's a knife with tools on it and stuff. Let's see here. My local weatherman got famous for getting drunk in a bank drive-thru and ripping the door off his car. Well, we all have to be getting famous for something. Team Ralph, no idea what that means. And people laughing at meniscus. So let's get into this. Okay, let's start way back at the beginning. Can anyone tell me who the very first guest on Late Night? And we have to make a distinction because there was Late Night with David Letterman. There was the David Letterman Show, which was the morning show, which I actually used to watch. In fact, I used to fake sick from school to watch it sometimes. So there's Late Night with David Letterman, which is on NBC. And then the thing behind me, which was the Late Show with David Letterman on CBS. The very first guest David Letterman ever had, back on a night I watched it from Palmer Hall at Ball State University. I don't know if the wolf was with me or not. There he is. Bill Murray was the very first guest, February 1st, 1982, on Late Night with David Letterman. He was also the first guest on The Late Show, and that would have been on August 30th, 1993. So Bill Murray's appearances, and a lot of these things I'm going to tell you about are kind of, a few of them, not all of them, a few of them are compendiums. It's like this person and all their appearances. And that would probably be true of Bill Murray, although he was the first guest. And on this one, I believe this is the first CBS show. And he spray painted Dave on the front of the desk, which I understand was extremely costly to get around. I mean, it's the first night of his show, and it was some special occasion, and he spray paints Dave on the front of the desk, and it was a thing. So yes, Bill Murray's appearances, always. He did various stunts and sketches and other things with Dave, and always great. Now, this next one is one of my very, very, very favorites, excuse me. And this was a big thing when it happened. Now, David Letterman and the show, when they first started in 1982, they had a guest they really wanted, and that was Cher. And Cher kept saying she did not want to be on the show. And Dave told her, he's like, look, you were on the list. You were one of the very first people we wanted, and we've kept asking you. He asked her, one reason is that she wanted her hotel bill paid. Apparently, she'd been staying in New York and had accumulated this huge hotel bill at a very expensive hotel, and the show agreed to pay for it. So she came on, which one of the reasons. I'm assuming she had other ones. But Dave asked her why she never wanted to be on the show, and she said, because I thought you were an asshole. And there's that moment right there. And the rest of that interview is really interesting to watch. Now, they put all that behind them and became very, very good friends, and everything was but it, at the time, was an extremely uncomfortable moment. Dave kept bringing it up during the interview, and she laughed every time he did. And it is a wonderful moment from the career of David Letterman. I don't know that he feels that way, but it really was. But yes, she thought he was hostile to some of his guests. And she even said during the interview, well, I can tell when you like somebody and you're interested in talking to them, that it's fun and you have a good time. But if you don't, you really put them through the ringer, which might have been true once in a while. I don't know. Yes, Doopadoo says Cher's body language says it all. This next one is a particular favorite of mine. This was something that occurred, the replay. I couldn't get the actual date. It aired in 1995, but they replayed it in June 21st of 1996. And that was when Dave went to work at the drive-thru of the Taco Bell. And the interactions with the customers were absolutely amazing. He told one customer, she ordered something like a burrito supreme and a taco, and she said, how much? And he said, $34. The burrito supreme's a little pricey. And another person he asked, he goes, look, I'll pay for it and everything, but they don't really let us order food here. So I want you to get me some food. Another person, the person started ordering kind of, quickly, and he said, oh, hey, you're going to have to slow it down. I'm suffering the worst case of stomach flu I've ever had in my life. Which is not what you want to hear from somebody about to sell you food. You got to see the clip. It is absolutely hilarious. Yes, the Taco Bell drive-thru was classic. I mean, it really, really was classic. A person, she said she wanted a Diet Pepsi, and he said, what size? And she said medium, and he said, medium in relation to what? It just was an incredibly hilarious. Again, you can see it at YouTube/@Letterman. Another one that might be memorable to some people, but it did happen on February the 28th, 1984, was when Dave wore the Velcro suit and was jumping and pinning himself to the Velcro suit. Now, I might add that I'm kind of putting that on from when he wore the Alka-Seltzer suit and floated in the water, and another one where they strapped bags of cornflakes to him. He did a whole bunch of stuff like that on the Lake Show, but that's, you have to see the clip. He just runs up and boom, sticks right to the wall. So the Velcro suit. Dupa says Taco Bell was one of her famous. That's so Letterman. Medium in relation to what? Yeah, that whole one is really, really, really great. Now, this next one, I'm going to kind of do one of those compilation things. And one of the writers and performers on the show was the legendary Chris Elliott. And Chris Elliott was the son of one of the members of Bob and Ray, which was an amazing radio comedy team. And Chris Elliott was famous for several characters. He did an imitation of Jay Leno. He did all sorts of stuff. But the two things I remember him most for was the fugitive guy, which the show would be going on and Dave would say, we have a new member of our staff, and he'd be fixing a light or something. Hi, I'm from, I'm here to fix the lights. Where are you from? Oh, here and there. It was a throwback to the legendary show The Fugitive. And then at some point, a one-armed man would break into the studio and the fugitive guy would run off. And I thought that was just hilarious. And then another guy that he created was the guy under the seats, which was, he would just pop out from in the middle of the aisle and start talking to Dave about some crazy thing. He'd be dressed up in costumes sometimes. Another occasion or two, Dave would go under the seats and talk to him there, where he had been sort of living. They were just kind of, and you got to remember, at this time of television talk shows, everything was really buttoned up and formal and not like this at all. So there he is as the fugitive guy. All dressed. I'd like to kind of stay. I feel at home here. He would always say. He had pat lines for that character. And so the fugitive guy was one of my favorites. Jay loved Chris Elliott quite a bit. Chris Elliott with the new hair plugs. Yes, well, This one here, I don't think it gets talked about much anymore, but it made national news. Everyone was talking about it. I, at the time, was on AM 1340, WGCL, Bloomington, Indiana, doing afternoons. And we talked about this for a week. People were calling in about this for a solid week. And that, of course, was Madonna's appearance on March 31st, 1994, where she was dropping F-bombs like you can't imagine and cursing nonstop, making very crude sexual remarks throughout. She had sent Dave her panties before the show. It was over the top. And again, in 1994, you did not curse on, and he at one point goes, you do realize we're on the air, right? Now, of course, the show was taped in the afternoon, but they made the editor's job pretty hard that day, because she was not stopping. She was smoking a cigar, and again, very, very lewd sexual references, but a lot of F-bombs were dropped. A lot. And again, that just wasn't done on television at the time. Jared says, yeah, that was nuts. She sucks, but a definite classic appearance. Her first appearance on Letterman was actually with Julia Roberts. Julia Roberts just brought her on. She had come to the show and just said, come on out on stage with me. But at any rate, this next one is from July 28th of 1982. And oh boy, this was the one where Andy Kaufman went on with Jerry Lawler, and Jerry Lawler actually beat the living bejesus out of Andy Kaufman. Now, it was a work. Andy Kaufman was sort of into professional wrestling. Jerry the King Lawler, obviously a professional wrestler. But he, on camera, on stage, in front of everybody, without any announcement, just beat the snot out of Andy Kaufman, threw him up in the air, kicked him around, did all sorts of stuff. And again, it was something that made the news, maybe not as much as the Madonna incident, but everybody saw it. Everybody talked about it. And that was just 6 months into the run of late night. Jared says, only saw this on repeat, but again, great moment. I was 4 years old when this aired. Oh, yeah. See, I was in college. I was 18 years old. This next one, another bizarre appearance. A very, 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 and I have some other bizarre appearances for you, as if Madonna's and this one weren't enough. This is the appearance of Joaquin Phoenix. And Joaquin Phoenix came on, was only marginally communicative. He was actually doing this for a stunt for a documentary he was doing. But Letterman knew nothing about it. He was, with this beard and the sunglasses, and he would not really answer the questions. He would it was exactly, Jared. It was so uncomfortable. It was massively uncomfortable and weird. And again, you can see that at YouTube/@Letterman. And you won't believe it. You won't believe that someone came on to, the biggest talk show on at the time and acted this bizarre. This bizarre. This next one here is little. Yes, Dave did let him back on years later. And he mentioned that they used clips from that appearance in the documentary and didn't get permission from the David Letterman program, and he raked him over the coals about that a little bit, but yes, he did let him back on. Dupas says, Jay, exactly, Letterman made him laugh a couple of times, made him break character, and he did. Dave was really hammering him, with his bizarre behavior. So this one here is, man, for those of you who don't know, Warren Zevon was kind of the guest fill-in for Paul Schaefer. David Letterman, a huge fan of the music of Warren Zevon. And Warren Zevon had contracted terminal cancer. And this, with Dave and everyone knowing that Warren Zevon was dying, was Warren Zevon's last appearance on David Letterman, October 30th, and I put the wrong year down, but it was on October 30th. And Warren, I think it was 2012, and Warren Zevon died less than a year later. And he asked him, they were talking quite candidly about Warren's condition, and Warren answered him with, I think it might have been a slight miscalculation not to go to a doctor for 30 years. Dave asked him if in the situation he was in, did he know something that maybe the rest of us don't? And Warren answered, I know you're supposed to enjoy every sandwich. And now amongst us Warren Zevon fans, that's kind of a phrase we use, enjoy every sandwich. Warren performed 3 songs. I know he did Roland the Thompson Headless Gunner. I know that he did You're My Witness, I'm Your... I got the song in my head. Mutineer. He did Mutineer in one other song. But Warren also said during this interview that Dave's the best friend my music has ever had. And apparently after the show, Dave went into Warren's little green room, and they were in there for quite some time. And when Dave came out, Warren Zevon had given him his guitar. Fittingly, the person who will introduce Warren Zevon's induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame will be one of the very few non-musicians to do so, and that will be Mr. David Letterman. But if you want to see an absolutely riveting moment in broadcast television, go to YouTube/@Letterman and watch that final appearance. Dupas said, this one broke my heart, but it was so beautiful. It really was. And Warren is so at ease and so charming. But Warren appeared on the show dozens upon dozens upon dozens of times and played and led the band and everything else. So also maybe a little, encouragement to you, dear gentle viewer, to check out the music of Warren Zevon. It is absolutely spectacular, the virtuosity of Warren Zevon. And now finally getting some recognition in an institution that, frankly, I'm not crazy about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in general, but I do know that Warren Zevon needs to be in it. I may not know much, but I know Warren Zevon needs to be in that hall. And now, thankfully, he will be. And so appropriately, David Letterman will be the one that introduced him. God, these are all great picks. I had no idea about that. Big fan of the band and Dave. Yes, Werewolves of London. I have a T-shirt here from Liho Fuchs. It's a T-shirt someone made of, try the chow mein and all that stuff on it. But glad Dave is inducting Warren. We all are. Everyone is. And now to finish out this 10, and I have 5 more. So, it'll take me a second to unload these and load 5 more in. Because here's the thing. I can only load in 10 pictures. But the good news is, if I do like I was doing and paying $50 a month to get the higher version of StreamYard, I still got only 10 pictures. Thanks, StreamYard. Thanks. This is one of the characters on the show. Now, you may recognize this guy. He's actually a really, blue note cards. Jared, I don't have them. I have white note cards. I'm sorry. I'll get blue ones next time. We're on a low budget here. To prove that, we've got no super chats. So there you are. This guy is actually a well-known actor now. I believe his name is Jimmy Simpson. But he, on the Letterman show, played Lyle the intern. And Lyle would just walk out and sit down, what are you doing here, kind of a thing. And Lyle was like this hip, fast-talking, very full of himself intern. He'd say things to Letterman like, settle your yam bags down, Dave. And he'd many appearances, Lyle the intern. And he'd be like, I know you love me. You and me tonight, we're going out. And Lyle the intern is one of my favorite things about David Letterman, because it was never explained. It was never, brought up. He would just wander out, sit down just like that, and make himself at home like he owned the place. And he'd make these huge sort of assertions of his importance and everything else. Lyle the intern was quite... you're going to let me slide for the blue note cards. All right. That is funny. So anyway, Lyle the intern. I don't know if any of you remember the Lyle the intern. And if I don't mention one of your favorites here in a second, I'd like to hear yours, because there are some I had to leave off that were my favorites. Let me get rid of a few of these. So that, Jimmy Simpson is great. He is great. And he was great as Lyle the intern. As a matter of fact, one of the clips, I think, on the Letterman channel, it's somewhere online. Jimmy Simpson actually talks about being Lyle the intern. So Jared, thank you so much. We do have a super chat here. And Jared has generously donated. Jared, I'm gonna high side you a little here. $10. Get yourself $5 worth of Blue Note cards. I would, but I seriously, Jared, I have probably 1,000 of these 3x5s that I bought many years ago and haven't properly used them. So I've still got a lot left. So let me just get it. And thank you so much, Jared. And by the way, those of you watching, memberships are $2.99 a month. We do have super chats. You can gift memberships to other people, in addition to the fact that we have a merchandise store at the TomGulleyShow.com. We've got a PayPal, all of that. It really helps us with our little show here. And I know there are shows many of you watch that aren't as good as this one that you make more in a day than I make in a month, and you should feel bad about that. You really should. Let me get rid of a few here, but I don't know if I should tell this story or if anybody really wants to hear the story of me winning the David Letterman Scholarship. It was based on a creative project, not grades. I got good grades in school. Dupa says, please hit the like button. Yes, please do that. I got good grades in school, but it wasn't based on grades at all. It was based solely upon a creative project. Yes, and your likes would be appreciated too. So I did the project, and they had the they had the awards thing in the actual studio where the joy of painting was videotaped. It was down in this television studio, with a big television studio in the basement. You could look through a window from the first floor down into this basement. But anyway, those little desks that they had at school that didn't have the big giant desktop, but just sort of that kidney-shaped little extension, there were a bunch of those there. And I walked in, and I sat down, and they said, there's a piece of paper on the desk, don't turn it over. And they said that to everyone who came in. There's probably 40 chairs there. And by the time the ceremony started, Ron Elberg, Dave's attorney that I would end up getting to know somewhat, and all the faculty, and there was sort of a balcony at the top. The place was packed, absolutely packed. But I got to sit and think down in front because I was one of the people that entered it. And the ceremony started, and they said, okay, turn the paper over. And I turned it over, and they handed them out to everybody else. And there were 5 little bios, paragraph each, for the 5 finalists. And my name was one of them. And they start doing it like the Miss America contest. 4th runner-up, 3rd runner-up, 2nd runner-up. Now there's just me and it was just me and the other guy. And they go, our first runner-up is, and I'm not going to say his name because I'm not crazy about him, for reasons I could tell on another show. He's okay. He's a nice fella. Still teaches at Ball State. Some of us left Muncie, Indiana. Some of us did. But I'm sure he's been a fine teacher and all that. But anyway, when they announced his name, it hit me like a freight train. It was like, our first runner-up is, and everybody started like cheering and clapping me on the back, and there we were. I was escorted up front. I received the congratulations of the professor that Dave and I shared, Dr. Darrell Weibel, and then I was whisked away into this room right next to the telecommunications department office. It was in the offices. And the secretary there, Pat Hensley, R.I.P., she put me in there and she goes, I want you to take 5 minutes. I'm going to close this door and I want you to just think about what you've done because you're going to remember this for the rest of your life. And she closed the door and she was right. I just sat there and kind of went, wow, I just sort of got my hands around, I did this thing. And then she opened the door and she said, I am going to start routing phone calls through here and people are going to interview you for the next 2 hours. So the Wall Street Journal, People Magazine, I'm just taking these interviews. And that, I mean, I seriously, for the next 3 months, newspapers, and you can't imagine all the things, television appearances, you name it. It was a big deal. And for a long time, when I mentioned, or when someone else would mention, because I didn't mention it as much as other people did, that I was the first Letterman recipient, people go crazy. Now I spend a lot of time around people in their 20s going, okay, David Letterman was a late night host. You know Jimmy Fallon? Okay, it's like that, only for 30 years. So there, let's get through a few of your comments. I'll load these other famous moments. Music Biz Marty official is late. Don't worry about it. You're not alive anymore, so we excuse you for being late. I lied, Letterman. I liked Letterman, I think that's supposed to say, when I was very young. Watched him with my parents only on Friday nights. Okay. Christian Slater says, I was on Letterman 5 times. He was better than any other. Letterman was like Jimmy Fallon, but with talent. Well, and here's the thing. Johnny Carson is the king. Let's not, beat around the bush there. But David Letterman completely changed the playing field. He completely rewrote the script. He completely altered what that was all about. Damn, Tom, how long did you smile after you won? A long time. A long time. By the time I got back to the dormitory where I was an RA, they already had a sign up. I called home and told my mom that I had won, and then she said, oh, you did not. And then she finally believed me when she went to the grocery store, and it was on the radio that was playing over the speakers in the grocery store. I called my dad's workplace, and he was in a meeting, so I had to tell his partner, and it was a long thing. I had classmates from my hometown that wrote me letters and congratulated me. So it was a big deal. 1985, Letterman was big. So let's see here. Yeah, Carson was king, but no one was better than Letterman, and no one will ever come close to it. Yeah, he was kind of doing a different thing than Johnny was, I think. I have this tremendous affection and respect for Johnny Carson, but Letterman's my guy. It's the only way I can put it. I know Carson's Letterman's guy. So Carson was my grandparents' generation, but Letterman is ours. Yes, David Letterman, just the king. I'm sorry. Carson, amazing. I just can't say enough good things about him. But as someone said, Letterman was ours. He was our guy. And let me see if I can get these other images up here for you real fast. Because God knows 10, how could you, more than 10? Let's see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, there's one. Well, I guess I can these will just pop up normally, I guess, on the screen. That's what they usually do. All right, then. I don't think I have to explain this one too much. It was April 12th, 1995. Ms. Drew Barrymore, and by the way, that's David's birthday, is April the 12th. She stood on David's desk, did a slinky little dance, and turned her back to the camera and flashed Dave. And that, of course, was a rather large moment in the media at the time. They've since, I forget whose show they were on. They were on, who's that singer from American Idol that's got a show now? They were on her show, and they both talked about it. But yes, that was the moment. She flashed him live on national television. Jared says, I always said I wanted to be on Letterman for anything, for even stupid human tricks. When he went off the air, I kind of was sad that I never got to. I sat in the studio audience many times, though. Well, there is the show, the first show that I went to. I can look it up by who the guest was and stuff. And there's a cutaway to the audience at one point. I was wearing this pastel blue jacket, and it's very noticeable. I can make myself out. And I'm sitting right behind someone. It was the guest's daughter. So there's a couple times when they pan on her. Anyway, so you can see me. Lived across the street from the Ed Sullivan Theater. That is pretty amazing. That was one of my first dreams as a kid. And I got tickets that were called tape and hold. So there'd be this huge line, and I'd take my NBC envelope with the ticket in it. I still have it. And walk to they told me walk straight to the front of the line, and I would show it to them at the front of the line, and they boom right in up the elevator, taped, and the seats were taped off. They were tape and hold seats. Tom, you'd look good in pastel. No, you remember back then. It was 1985. I was wearing a pastel blue jacket and I don't remember even what shirt I was wearing. It was a dress shirt of some kind, and pants from merry-go-round that had like checkers on it. I'm glad no photos exist of that. But anyway, April the 12th, 1995, Drew Barrymore flashes David Letterman on, no, it wasn't a members only. It was actually a suit jacket. But David Letterman is flashed by Drew Barrymore live on national television. Let's see what this one is real quick here. I think I know what it is. Okay, now this one's hard to make out, but starting, like, I don't know that this is the exact date, but I have down here February 15th, 1990. There was a woman who worked for a publishing company named Meg Parsont, and Dave somehow got her phone number, and they would shoot across the street into her office window, and she would talk to him. And this went on for years. Let's see what Meg's up to. And they would talk to Meg Parsont. She ended up getting engaged. I mean, we went through all these elements of her life, and it's just another example of how David Letterman, like with his bullhorn yelling at the Today Show when they were doing some kind of a broadcast, Bryant Gumbel got mad, turned around. But talking to Meg Parsont, Parsont, you can probably find those too, YouTube /@Letterman. Check them out. They're just another example of how Dave just did anything, that just completely would do anything. He did a lot of stuff on the phone, calling people up and whatnot. But there it is. Dave talking to Meg Parsont. I think it was Simon & Schuster. I could be wrong there. But let's see here. Your mom saying no you didn't when you won is adorable. And speaking of moms, I actually got to spend a goodly amount of time with Dave's mom. One year at the Letterman, it was the Telecommunication Department Awards, and one of the things they did was recognize the Letterman Scholarship winner, and all the other departmental awards at Ball State. I was always invited to be at that. And I went up there with my girlfriend. I would always sit in the very back every single year. And Dave's mom had a table right up at the front. And I went to my back table, hung out with my good friend and now member of the Indiana Broadcasting Hall of Fame, Sandra Chapman. Sandra, I know you're not watching, but... And so we're back there hanging out. And Dave's attorney, Ron Elberg, who is not the tallest man in the world, but can chill you with a line. He's a wonderful man, super nice guy, incredible attorney. But he came back to the table and said, Mrs. Letterman has requested that you sit at her table. And I said, yeah, we're just kind of back here. I don't really want to. Because I was always, they'd say, we do have our first scholarship winner. And I'd stand up and everyone would clap and I'd sit down and I just didn't want to be in the thick of it. And then he went, Mrs. Letterman is okay, we're going. So I got my girlfriend, we went up there. And I talked to her. She happened to live in my hometown at that time. And there's a story I can tell. I might as well tell it since we're going all in on Dave here. The woman, the mother of the kid that won that year, was all over Mrs. Letterman. And I mean, she wouldn't let her alone. And I was out in the hallway, and Mrs. Letterman is walking into the ladies' room, and this lady is just like haranguing her. And I just kind of walked up as I saw him walking that way, and I said, "Excuse me, don't you think Mrs. Letterman would like a little privacy? Why don't you go over here and chat with me about what your son did? I'm a very highly placed advertising individual, and let's just talk about your son." And Mrs. Letterman thanked me for that later on, and that was fine. She was the most gracious and personable, but not out there. A gentleman named Heinz was with her. And I believe I sat with her 2 or 3 years in a row, and then I moved away and didn't go to the awards anymore. But she was a wonderful, wonderful lady. And I remember the next year I got there, and she walked up and she put her hand on my arm and said, "Now you're sitting at our table, aren't you?" And I said, "Well, I am now. I am now," because I wasn't gonna. Anyway, what did David Letterman say when you told him you created the Dabbleverse? I've never spoken to David Letterman, not once. And sometimes it's kind of a joke. Now, I have written things that he has been presented with. I'm aware of that, but I've never spoken with him personally. But sometimes in some correspondences or from at Ball State, people will ask me in large gatherings or even on a live stream, they'll say, "Have you ever spoken to David Letterman?" And I always answer, "Has he been telling people that he's talked to me again?" No, we've never talked. I wish he'd stop doing that. Anyway. Oh, did I? I thanked Barbara Gaines. Good. I thought for a second I hadn't. Doopadoopadoo says, "I forgot about Meg." Yes, Meg was hilarious. Absolutely hilarious. Let's see. Remember the pizza place and TGI Fridays across the street? Those bits were hilarious. He went down to Steak and Shake one time, too, which is interesting because where he went to school, the high school he went to, sort of down the street and over, and I think in his neighborhood they would walk to Steak and Shake. So he was a big Steak and Shake fan. So that was cool. That's a good clip as well. All right, let me get you another clip here. Still got, I think, 2 or 3 to go. 2 or 3 to go. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. This is another compendium. Remember when Dave used to drop things off the roof? He dropped everything off of that roof. He would just drop stuff off of that roof, man. TVs, you name it. And then the other thing that he did was he had a high power hydraulic press, and then he also had the steamroller. Oh, the roof watermelons were the best. Oh, God, those were great. And I think they put music behind those and stuff. But he also had the steamroller that they would run over things with. I think one of the things was a complete breakfast. They ran over a complete breakfast. And it was pretty awesome. But yes, he had the super high power hydraulic press. And then he also had the steamroller, and he also dropped stuff off the roof. And some of these things, he did other similar things when he got to the Ed Sullivan Theater. They did a whole bunch of stuff off the awning there, and it was always great. I mean, he threw footballs through the windows of taxi cabs. Like I said, they would hit golf balls or baseballs inside the studio. Don't forget the yearly eggnog. Yes. But they really, he rewrote it. Him and Merrill Marco and the staff and everybody, they rewrote the whole playing field. It was never the same after Dave went on the air. Never, ever was. And just created so many great moments. This is another compendium. And this was a guest when they were on. It was must-see viewing. And that was, of course, Come on, StreamYard. That was the late, great Terry Garr. And there were a number of guests like this, like Julia Roberts and others, that when they were on, you knew it was going to be great. You knew it was going to be. Cher became one of them. And Charles Grodin. And you just knew when Terry Garr was on, there was going to be a lot of laughter and a lot of back and forth. And it was just spectacular. And Terry Garr passed away a few years ago. But when she was on David Letterman, she was absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. And yes, she was stunning. Absolutely stunning. And so at any rate, the appearances of Terry Garr, also one of my top 10, although it's actually 15, Letterman moments. And that's for me, the first scholarship winner, which makes my opinion on these way more valuable than yours. And, you know, even if you super chatted, and there's only one person that super chatted, that's the lovely and talented Jared. And finally, this is the final one, I'm sorry. And then I want to hear yours as well. Anything that I've left out, I would really welcome hearing yours, although they're not as good as mine. This would be, yes, the absolutely, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix was bizarre. But when Crispin Glover appeared on the show, this is him asking, he said he was strong. He asked Dave to feel his muscle. He ended up throwing karate kicks at Dave. Yes, karate kicks. He was absolutely unhinged, was Crispin Glover, with the weird hair and, well, you know, make what you will from the outfit he was wearing that night. But that is, you know, a top 10 Letterman moment. He said, oh, I forgot about Crispin. Yeah, this was crazy. I mean, this was like, are they going to take him away type crazy. This was over the top type crazy. So anyway, those would be my top 10, actually 15. And there's so many more. All you got to do is go to YouTube/@Letterman. And you will, it's all there for you. And they do a nice thing when someone passes. Diane Keaton passed just recently, and they've got a clip of her talking about heaven and hell and a few other things. So, you know. Crispin was talking, Crispin was on LSD when this happened. Well, I don't know if that's true or not, but I certainly wouldn't doubt it. He was just out of his mind. But if you've got something that I've forgotten here, please let me know. I mean, I could have put Don Rickles on, but Don Rickles, it seemed kind of obligatory. Don Rickles is just amazing wherever he appeared. There were musical guests, Elvis Costello, that he had on all the time. Was incredible. I could have put Dave's appearance with Dan Rather after 9/11. That's a big moment. That's a very big moment in broadcast history. I could have put Dave's return after his heart surgery. His out of the studio stuff with Richard Simmons. One of my favorite things, and I didn't put it on here, mostly because I couldn't find a picture that I thought was good enough. But one of them was, he was with Zsa Zsa Gabor going to fast food restaurants in Los Angeles. Yeah, that's it. Lock me up. Lock me up, StreamYard. I deserve that. Slow me down. Thanks, StreamYard. Appreciate that. You can't imagine. Why don't you just totally freeze the thing for me? Go ahead, just freeze it. Just completely freeze it. Nobody's gonna care. Nobody's watching. I'm gonna go ahead and pin the link, I guess. Pin message. There we go. Now I can shut this down. Let's see here. Yeah, there was Rupert at the Hello Deli. He was amazing. I teared up when Rupert retired. That was only on the Letterman YouTube channel. Yes. There's me in the link. Dupa, thank you so much for the $10. Thank you, Tom. Scorsese's mother teaching Dave how to cook. Oh, that was great. Harvey Picard. Yes, Harvey Picard had. What about Brother Theodore? What about Larry Bud Melman, for crying out loud? What about Butch? Stupid Animal and Stupid Human Tricks. So many. Musical guests would be a whole nother show. Yeah, Mujibur and Siraju. Yes. Dupa upped me by a penny. Hey, you kids, stop fighting. Just stop fighting. Anyway, those are all great additions. Absolutely all of them are great additions. He had presidents on, he had Obama on and people like that. Let's see here. I like round numbers. What about when he used to go over into the NBC 5, whatever, their show while he was doing his show? He also found out that John McCain canceled his show and was on another show. And I mean, he was raking McCain over the coals. And then McCain came on the show. And I think McCain, he sat down. So you were supposed to be on this show and you did another show. What do you got to say about that? And McCain just went, I screwed up real bad. And everybody laughed so hard, including Letterman. It was completely forgotten. So, there was just a lot of great stuff. 30 years. And, how can you not love David Letterman? How can you not love David Letterman? I mean, I could talk about the fact that they tried to extort David over, his relationships with various staff workers, interns, things of that nature. None of which were, they were all consensual. But some guy tried to extort him, and he just came out and took all the steam out of that and said, well, this happened. I got a lot of fences to mend, but I went to the police, and we took care of that. Another great show. Now, thank you, Chef. I appreciate that. I very much appreciate it. Say hi to him at the Skyline Club for me, would you? Very true. Very true. So that's it. That's my show on a guy that has never thought of me once, but it has done tremendous things for me. He's a tremendous humanitarian. If you go to his wiki page and look to all the things that he's contributed to and been a benefactor of, it's staggering. He gives a scholarship to the students at Peru High School in Indiana because those students train themselves as acrobats, tightrope walkers, and put on a circus every year. So he's got a scholarship from them as well. He donated the funds to create all these radio studios and stuff. And of course, there is the David Letterman Media Building for Media Studies at Ball State University. I think it's a $21 million. I don't know that it was his $21 million, but his name's on it. And when I won, I got a telegram, still have it, from David Letterman. This says, Tom, congratulations on winning the scholarship. Sorry I can't be there. As you know, I'm busy attending the Geneva Summit. David Letterman. And I sent him a telegram back that said, on behalf of myself and all future winners of the scholarship, thank you for your generosity. By the way, I'll be at the Geneva Summit too. Make sure to bring plenty of sharp pencils. Of course, it was never acknowledged. But his attorney from time to time would say, Dave wants to know what you're up to. And I would put a lot of the ads that I had done, TV commercials and radio and print ads, and I would put them in a bag from the Atlas supermarket where Dave was a bag boy. And I would send that off to him. Another time, I forget what tribute it was. I had to write something, and I wrote something. I guess it was I got word back that it was well received. I don't know if it was or not. But here's the cool thing about me. I won't bug Dave. As a matter of fact, his attorney one time, I was at an event, and his attorney was going to bring in a bunch of trinkets and trash, T-shirts and things for some of the students. And he looked up at me and goes, "You're pretty big, Gulley. Come on out to my car." And he had this beautiful Cadillac, and he pops the trunk, and he starts getting stuff out of it. And he looks up to me and goes, "You know why I like you?" And I go, "I didn't know that you did." And he goes, "Because you don't ask me for anything. A lot of these people, they're constantly asking me for things." And I know how Dave is. I wouldn't reach out to him. I wouldn't bother him. He's not that kind of guy. Not that kind of guy. Let me see here. Say goodnight, Gracie. Goodnight, Gracie. Dave's attorney wanted to know what you were up to. No, Dave did. I think maybe he just wanted to know what some of the scholarship winners were doing. So that's going to do it. Yeah, Tom is classy. Well, yes, I know. But I'm not going to bug David Letterman. He's not a guy that wants to be bugged. What am I going to say to him? No, not going to do that. Not going to do that. Plus, if he called me, I'd be like a schoolgirl. Oh, geez. It would be terrible. It would be embarrassing for both of us. I'd love to talk to Barbara Gaines. That woman's a sweetheart. That woman's a sweetheart. I strongly encourage you to subscribe to YouTube/@Letterman. But I got to go now. There's another show that's on that I'm quite positive will not start on time. But nevertheless, I want to be respectful. I put the link up and everything, and of course, as usual, I will. There we go. There we go. No, I think if he called right now, I would ask him some really good questions, and we'd have a good time. But he doesn't need that. He's David Letterman. So anyway, I really have enjoyed doing this show. I have to thank Doopadoopadoo, who I could also name by her real name, which I think I remember from back before she changed it, but I wouldn't do that. But I'd like to thank her for suggesting this. Do you think Barbara Gaines would ever be a guest on your show? Well, I could ask her. I could always ask. I guess it wouldn't hurt to ask. I don't know. But see, she's another person. I don't really want to bother her. But I would bother her way before I bothered Dave. I think she's a pretty busy lady. I think she's got a lot going on. But it would be fun. It would be fun. I think the trick to talking to either one of those people, they've been interviewed 27 million times about their time at the show. And so you'd really have to ask them things they've never been asked before. I kind of have always done that my whole career. I never want to ask somebody a question they've been asked before. But anyway, thank you again to Doopadoopadoo. I'd like to thank Doopa and Jared for their kind donations. And tomorrow night we are covering, at the behest of the person that has the show that's going to be on supposedly in 40 seconds, but that ain't happening, kids. The Dark Lord of the Internet requested the Jarvik heart, the first artificial heart. So we're going to do a show on that. I was great with Ruta Lee. Did you notice that I asked her about things that nobody asks her about? That's the keynote Tom Gulley interview style. God, I want to interview her again. Maybe I can as we get closer to her birthday and my birthday. So anyway, with all of that being said, I think the only thing left to say is, till next time, we'll see you next time.
One, two, three, four. They call me Mr. Gulley. I've got something for your ear. Now it might sound kind of funny, but I'll make it very clear. So what we talking about? We're talking about spiders, and we're talking about her biting. Talking